What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of CHRIS Akin Presents. Fat guy here is Chris Akin. The less fat guy over there, that is Erik Ferentinos. How are you, sir?
Doing awesome, Chris. Happy to be back.
For what, one day, right?
Yeah, one day. That's it. I mean, we probably could have gone to Branson, Missouri, where I have to go tomorrow, and just hung out in a hotel for 2 days. I probably would have been all right with that. I had my guitar, I had my little amp. I could have just laid in bed for 2 days, but we did head home yesterday and took care of a couple things here, did some laundry, but at 3:30 a.m., this guy has to be up to head out to Branson.
And what time did you get in last night?
Last night, I think I got home about 5 p.m.
So you get to be home, about 30 hours.
Right. Something like that.
And then you're gone for how long now this time? From
just 3 days, technically. It's a fly out. Tomorrow night's off, and then Friday is the show. I just kind of looked at this, but the opening act is Jesus Jones.
Oh, no kidding.
Jesus Jones.
Yeah.
This is like a retro 80s event, so it's a couple days of this, and they just kind of put these different bands, but they play, and then Stephen Pearcy's rap plays, then Lou Graham of Foreigner fame performs, and headlining the show that night, Night Ranger.
Oh wow, that's a cool set.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. I just got the schedule today, so I'll be able to relax tomorrow night. But yeah, I'm still a little pooped from this past week. We did 3 in a row. We were in the South. We actually kicked it off in at the Arcada, right? Arcada,
mm-hmm.
Arcada, in St. Charles. I got to see the great Neely. Showed up with his lady Taylor. Yep. I wish I had more time to hang out with them. It is really tough getting into town with these shows, and by the time you do sound check, I take at least an hour to get ready, before the show. And it's tending to the guitars and all that. There's a lot of extra stuff that goes into having those guitars ready to play.
Sure.
I don't really, I'd rather get paid more than have a tech out there doing it. You know what I mean?
No,
it's like, give me the money. I'm here to work. I'll just it really has to be thorough. All this string pulling and stretching that goes on.
So part of that, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but a part of it is no matter how good the tech is, he ain't you. And you know the feel. And as weird as that is, it can sound perfect in sound check, but then when you play it, it doesn't sound perfect because you didn't tune it.
We've had hired people that were on the lower range on pay, that really did a terrible job. Like one guy, it was almost funny looking back, but the first day in the band 24 years ago, they had a guy named Skull. His name was Skull.
Skull. Okay.
Yeah.
You knew that was quality right there.
Yeah. He had like green teeth. And he wore a hat, and it looked like he had long hair, but I think when he took the hat off, there was no hair under where the hat goes.
Okay.
Stinky dude. I at the time I had a Gibson SG, and I had my Les Paul, and I had just had these like Shaler tuners put on that were locking tuners, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna change your strings for you, whatever. And I go, you know how to work those, right? The Spurzels. And he's, oh yeah. So day one, this guy takes those things completely off, which they're not supposed to come completely off when you turn them. He actually took them completely off like a retard, and just like totally effed up all my guitars just on day one. So they weren't going to work. They weren't going to stay in tune as well after that. And he just did a shit job. I think at some point we left his ass somewhere. We left him just like on a bus stop somewhere. He was awful. So with that experience, I was like, you know what? I'll just do my own stuff.
Right.
Skull, good with meth and groupies, bad with guitars. Yes, my God, that's pretty accurate. Another funny thing he did, thinking about in remembrance of him, because I think he has passed away. But he was one of those guys where he's like, hey, guess how old I am? Guess how? And this guy looked like shit, and so like you don't even know what to say.
So you guessed like 60.
I think like he would like add years on to make it seem like he looked good for his age. I think he was only in his 40s, but he's like, I'm 60. It's like
66.
I look 60. And then he was also like, I remember he was dating like a really old lady. which was like a real like a Golden Girls, age. I remember he warned us when we pulled whatever town she was going to be. I was like, no, my girlfriend's a little weird. Weird? What do you mean? He's like, well, she's older. And then this like little old lady comes up. It was like, oh,
Eric, I'd like you to meet my girlfriend Ethel. Come on over here, Ethel.
Yeah. But yeah, he did crazy shit. He would go out there and like do guitar solos at the line check before the show. He'd be out there playing my guitar, doing all this stupid stuff, and I'd get out there and the string would break. It was just, I had so many things working against me when I first joined the band. But after that whole experience, I was like, I'm doing my own stuff forever. Just pay me as much as you can, and I will take care of my own thing. And that's just probably the biggest amount of time I put into a show is getting those guitars tip top to play, as I'm sure Johnny does as well, man. It's hours. It's like probably, to prep a guitar for a show is probably 2 hours to get it acclimated and ready to stay in tune all night.
And a big part of it, and correct me if any of this is wrong, but I'm making a guess as a fan, not as somebody that knows you or Johnny. I'm guessing there's a lot of pressure on this specific band to be guitar perfect. Yeah. Because Rat is Steven is kind of the face of Rat. Sure. But when people think of Rat, they think of guitars. Right. They definitely think of the guitar tone and the guitar sound.
Mm-hmm. And Warren DeMartini was like definitely a top 10 guy of the 80s rock players. So you're having to fill those shoes of a top 10 guitar player. That's a lot on anybody's plate. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely more people that could do it than just Johnny and I, but not a ton more. You know what I mean?
And it's such a signature sound.
Right.
It is such a, I don't care what song you play, even if you play later stuff, if you play something off of, Reach for the Sky or whatever, you hear 3 notes of it, it's Rat because it's Warren. It's a signature sound, and you guys can't go in there with $400 guitars tuned to whatever they're tuned to and play.
No, we can't. But Neely was so cool. It was nice to see him, and he was grateful for me getting him in, and Taylor, and I did get to Sal. I didn't get to see Sal.
Okay.
I saw those two. They stopped by my hotel room before the show. They were in the same hotel. Right. They stopped by for a few minutes beforehand. I posted a funny little video on the CMS page that people got a kick out of because me, I'm always singing stupid songs, and I started singing some I opened the door, I started singing a Michael Jackson song to him or something. Smooth Criminal, and I changed the words to Neely instead of Annie or whatever the name he uses, Michael Jackson uses in there.
Right.
So that's on the CMS page. You can see when Neely showed up. And we hung out for a little bit before the show, and then he did come backstage after. And they had brought us some pizza there. This place, the Arcada, have we ever talked about this place?
Neely has on CMS, but you have not.
Right. This is an Al Capone gangster place.
Okay.
Now on my subscriber page, I've been getting better at doing tour diaries of sorts.
Sure.
With the iPhone, I've been able to just kind of, as long as I don't shoot too much stuff, just keep them short clips. I can load them up at the end and actually make a 10-minute video that's pretty decent. And I do go into the Arcada and get a little tour from the lady that works there. She's super cool. I forgot to get her name, but this place has like bullet holes in the wall. Nice. Al Capone had tunnels that went from there to like other places in town. Okay. A hotel specifically. She shows where one of those entrance points were. Right. People have been whacked in there behind. Nice. They had a door that they got back from the police evidence locker.
Oh, cool.
It was door number 6. What's behind door number 6? A dead guy.
A dead man.
Yeah. So I have footage of the door. So. Yeah, got to hang and talk with them for a while. He got to say hey to Steven. I think they had a good time. I listened to a little bit of the CMS, and it sounded like he had fun.
Yeah, he seemed like he did. He was very, well spoken of what he saw. So
Yeah. Yes.
I do want to bring up one thing, if you don't mind. I'm going to change directions a little bit.
All right.
You made me laugh so fucking hard yesterday. And you don't even know that you did.
Okay.
But you cracked me up so bad. And I even used if you saw the graphic to the episode today,
okay,
I cartoonized it so as not to as to keep it a little anonymous, but I'm not going to here.
Okay.
This video that you shot on the fucking plane cracked me up so bad.
Right.
What is going on here? There we go. What is this, Eric?
So this plane is small. This airport that I'm leaving is in Tennessee. It's the Tri-Cities airport, very small regional airport. And they of course have smaller planes. So this is one of those planes that has like 2 seats and 2 seats. This guy couldn't figure out where he was even supposed to sit. And as I was going to take my seat, he goes, "Hey, he had the window. He was supposed to have the window."
Okay.
And he goes, No. He's like, "You go ahead and take the window." I'm like, "Well, no, sir. If it's your spot, take it." He's like, "Oh, no, you go ahead. I insist." And I'm like, "Oh shit, here we go." So I get in and it's kind of tight. He, of course, right away, he had asked for a seatbelt extender. This dude's big. This guy was probably
I was going to say, what's he, about $3 bills?
Oh, probably more than that, But yeah,
seatbelt extender guy?
Yeah. I mean, he's probably 6'6" or 7".
Oh, wow. Okay. So he might be $4 bills.
Yeah.
All right.
He was huge. And so he got his extender and whenever I go, okay, we were already kind of close. And he just, gets like this. And within, no kidding, like maybe 4 minutes, the guy's just snoring away there. And then he just starts leaning like more and more. And I'm just like, he was big enough. I did have to ultimately shove him a little bit till then he just and it gets right back over there again. This was a 20-minute flight. It was only a 20-minute flight.
And he fell out he looks like he's hard asleep here.
And dude, it's not 6 a.m. This is like at, 11 a.m. 11 a.m., 20-minute flight, and this guy's just and so at this point, I'm definitely gonna start doing this. I'm gonna start filming some of the ridiculous shit I have to put up with on these flights.
Do you think that he's one of these guys that just anytime he gets on a plane, he goes to sleep? Because there are people that do that.
I don't know what's going on. I was joking. I called him the Big Ragu. But
all I know is I got to watch this one more time. I'll turn the sound off on it so we can talk over it. But this video, dude, no lie. I mean, you get your numbers on your page.
Right.
The first 1,000 plays on this are me. I just played this fucking thing over and over and could not stop laughing. Not so much at the guy, but you are just like, gee, I can hear you going, Jesus Christ. Right. I can hear you thinking that. Which makes it all the more funny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just look, you're just like, God damn it. Why?
Really? And then I had to pan down so you could see that I was actually completely turned in my seat because this guy was now like halfway into my seat. And he's falling now. You can see he's like falling down even further. Here he goes. Burp. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long damn flight.
20 minutes seemed like 3 hours.
Yeah.
God, I'm telling you, dude, it had me. I'm not even kidding you. I mean, literal number. I'll bet I played that video 100 times.
It has thousands of plays. I wish I should have filmed it for longer because it's only a 10-second video. Yeah. But it's getting my numbers up. Like I'm, a third the way there on the minutes I need on my page to. So if I continue with the tour diary kind of things and putting funny stuff up there. Another funny one was the Zoltar that I had put up that was like from the movie Big, I think.
Right.
Where that gypsy
is that on subscriber or is that on regular?
No, I think I put it on my regular page for people. I'm trying to like kind of bait people in a bit because they're like, well, what's on it? If he's putting this good stuff, what's his subscriber page has? My subscriber page has way better stuff and way more video. But every now and then I have to like show people some some things to get my numbers, because not everybody's going to pay the buck. But
well, this guy says you're charging way too little, man.
Jason Holstein, I've really enjoyed the videos on Eric's subscriber page. $5 wouldn't be unreasonable. Oh, that's really nice.
I think Jason, I've told you that myself off the air.
I was gonna I was hoping that I could get like 1,000 people on there, and then I could really spend a lot of time putting even more stuff. But I'm not gonna jack the price on these nice fans that went on there. I'm not gonna do that to them. But if they want to spread the word that it's a great channel, let people know, and we'll get some more people in there.
Sure.
We still didn't pick the Fright Bite movie that we're going to do.
I know. Me and you didn't. I mean, it's weird. Me and you usually text and email or talk once a week, twice a week. We didn't talk at all this week.
Right. Chris has been super busy. He's got his hand in a lot of fires.
Too many.
Right. But, so we will, maybe by the end of this show, we'll announce it, because I'm going to be perusing.
Well, do you have something even in mind? Because I don't, but...
Right. We joked about maybe doing Camp Utopia, which was that stars Stephen Piercy, but we're looking into ripping that. I own it, and we could potentially get it to Chris, where I could send it to him and do it that way.
For this week, I'll find something tomorrow. Right. I'll find something. I'll make sure that it's really cheeseball enough, and I'll just send you a poster with it.
Right,
but
right, yeah.
It'll be on the socials tomorrow. I'll just put it there, so we don't over talk this to death about something that nobody gives a shit about until it's time. But we will have something picked by tomorrow for Fright Bite, because
this would actually be the next show. There isn't going to be a Chris Akin Presents on Rumble or YouTube next week. It'll be the Fright Bite. So you either have to be a CMS Locals member, which is $5. Now you get a lot with that. You're getting all the shows. You're getting all the shows and all that stuff. But if money's tight right now and you want to be a part of this, if you go to my subscriber page, it's only $1 a month, and you'll always be able to be in on this. Plus all the cool stuff I put on there. And it's also Stoic Steve is going to be doing a new recipe this coming week when I get home.
There you go.
And what else do I do on there? Sea Glass Hunters.
Hunters.
We talked about this last week, but Pete Evick really put out a legit candle made with my hand-picked seashells and sea glass that you see on the show that I post on my page. And he puts one of my guitar picks in there. I did get him out more supplies to do a bigger run, because he has this set up on his Soul candles. SOL. Shining Soul. This is Pete Evick of the Bret Michaels Band. Shining Soul candles. He has like a ocean scent candle that he's doing. It's the Eric Ferentino Sea Glass Hunters candle, which was super cool of him to do. I don't know where I was going with that.
That's just another cool thing. About that there's more stuff coming.
Sea Glass Hunters, right. It made me remind me that I do have the 11th episode is going to be going up within a week as well. Yeah, that's that. It looks good. It looks like a bowl of cereal or some kind of ice cream that you would eat,
like yogurt or something.
Yeah.
A Ferentino's yogurt.
But that's legit, sea glass and shells. I went out this morning. Susan and I went out for a walk. It was low tide, and I got more of the small shells for him, because obviously they can't be huge shells that go into this thing. They're smaller, so I'm able to find those, and I started getting some more for that. So a lot going on, but great ways to support the show and Chris and I, because we work hard for you guys, and the music business is tough, as we know. But I've been doing great. I was able to keep my composure on that flight because I have been working a lot with Steven, and he takes good care of me. So I'm in a good mood. I'm like coming home with money. 3 shows in a row is always a cha-ching. Yeah. So I was in a good mood, and I'm going to go out and make money from another show tomorrow. So I was happy to be going home, and I cut this guy some slack on there. If you caught me at other times in my life, I probably would have slashed him. But not that day. I'm like, you know what? Let's just have fun with this. This is such a ridiculous predicament I'm in. Why don't I film it while I'm here? And I'm glad everybody enjoyed it.
Well, dude, and I can only speak for me, but I laughed and laughed and laughed.
Yeah.
Just watching, knowing, and I think part of it is knowing you and knowing how much you really hate the travel part of this.
Ugh. Yeah.
I know you do. I know you hate the hotel rooms. I know you hate the flying even more.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see it, and it's like I can literally hear you through this video. I can hear you going, son of a bitch, this fat fuck is going to sit down next to me. I can hear you saying this in your head. And sure enough, that he plunks down and he tries to be nice. And I know you're like, hey, nice to meet you. Meanwhile, you're thinking, there's fucking 40 other seats back there.
I flew home, Southwest would be like you're saying. And we did take Southwest out on that trip, but I had a one-way back on Delta. So these were assigned seats, but he pushed me into his, which really backed me in a corner there. Cause I really don't. I take the aisle seats more. Both of them suck for different reasons. Like if you're at the window seat, sometimes a person doesn't get up, and that annoys me. Like when it's time to leave and you're trapped in there and they won't get out of their seat till the last second, till the last person's left the plane. That drives me bananas because I always need to go. I'm in a hurry. If you take the aisle seat, you're going to get bashed by everybody that comes by. Like I come home with bruises on my arms and stuff like that.
Right.
But at least at that one, I can lean away from somebody. I can get, you can only lean so far into a window. You know what I mean? Like in this situation, you could see I was pushed against as far as I could go. I'm like, come on, man. And he's just like,
right.
I don't know how viral that thing's going to eventually go. He's probably going to see himself at some point.
Well, that's too bad, isn't it? I mean, dude, it's not like it's not a public place. You're free to film yourself sitting.
So then we did that Arcada show. Then I had to be up early that next day, so I had to tell Neely I couldn't do the all-nighter party.
Sure.
With him, I had to bid them farewell and thanked them for coming out to check out the show. And at 5 a.m. we were off to the airport to head to Kentucky. Now that show was huge, man. What a cool fair that was. It was us and Quiet Riot, and Quiet Riot's a great band to be on the bill. Like they get everybody hyped. You hear the bang your head, the come on, feel the noise, and you're now in 80s mode. By the time we get out there, they had him, Jizzy had him rocking. He was singing really great. And it was packed. There was like thousands of people at this thing.
Nice.
And we went out and tore it up. It was a great show. All the footage I seen looks great. The crowd was going berserk. It was so good to see. And these are young people too. It was like people our age, but with their kids and grandkids and stuff. I have this picture that I'm going to post probably tomorrow where we're playing the round and round solo, and they have this ego ramp that went up on this huge stage. And we usually don't have that ramp on most stages. So I said to Johnny earlier, hey, we should probably go out on the round and round solo at the end and run out there. Do you want to do it? And he was like, oh, I don't know. So I'll go, well, I'll point to you. If you don't want to do it, that's cool, but we probably should. And it came to the point of the show, and I go, and he goes, all right, let's go. And so we shot up there, and everybody just went nuts. There was it looked like a 10 or 11-year-old kid that was just going ape shit in the crowd. And I stopped during the solo and fist bumped him. And this guy that was taking pictures actually caught a picture of that. You could see me, not of the kid, but you could see the fist, but that's who I'm doing, who I'm fist bumping. And it was just cool to see. It reminded me of myself when I was a face in the crowd, as a teenager, having a crazy time in a rock concert, being front row or whatever, and getting to high five somebody. Jack Russell comes to mind. I remember seeing Tesla and Jack Russell as a teenager and being in the front row and slapping Jack Russell's hand and Jeff Keith and those people and thinking that was the most awesome thing.
Sure.
And I saw it in this kid's face. And so I know he's going to grow up and keep rocking. He's going to be a rocker kid. And that's good to see,
Dude, it's definitely going around, about the younger people coming out to the older. And I think it's because there's just not a lot of newer rock music for these kids to latch onto.
Right.
I chatted yesterday with Ian Hill from Judas Priest.
Nice.
And I asked him about, retirement is what I asked him about was, does he plan on retiring? And we got into a conversation about the crowds, and he literally said the same thing you're saying, that he sees a lot of younger kids now. And he in his mind, he thinks, well, it's these kids were listening to Judas Priest when their dad was listening to Judas Priest, but now they love Judas Priest.
I think they look at it like Greek gods showing up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like how we looked at Zeus or somebody. You know, they were like they had the white beard and stuff, but they could still kick your ass. You know, and I think that's what they're seeing, and they're respecting that. You know what I mean? Well, they're like, hey, these guys are.
And there aren't any of those today. There aren't any. You know, Stephen Piercy is Stephen fucking Piercy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Rob Halford is Rob Halford.
Rob freaking Halford.
If you're a fan of, I don't know, The Warning, I'm just throwing a name out there. If you're a fan of them, well, you can follow every meal they eat on social media. You know, there's no mystery to them. There's no aura to them. Where when we were coming up, dude, you remember how you would gravitate to the slightest little thing that would be said in like Hit Parade or something.
Right.
You'd be like, you'd be reading an article and it would say something like, and Vince Neil, you know, we caught up with Vince Neil at dinner and he was having a steak. And you'd be like, oh my God, Vince Neil likes steak. Wow. So do I. I like steak too. We're the same, man. You know, there was that aura of, we didn't know anything about anybody.
Right.
And we would just learn these little tiny tidbits, and social media has taken all that away. You know, now we know way too much. And literally these younger bands, we've quite honestly seen them graduate from being local bands. We've seen them. We've seen them in their garage. We've seen them when they were 8 picking up their drumsticks for the first time or whatever. Sure. So there's no mystery.
No mystery at all. Right.
No, so it's kind of like your buddies. I'm sure you have buddies that play in bands.
I've had to go this way too. I get it. I know the mystique that went on with these bands, even specifically with Rat, you know, because I think more so than Motley Crue, like Motley were funny enough guys that they were able to show them more, like, and they actually put out that uncensored video that made them seem so cool, like, I want to party with these guys.
Yeah, the limo with the hot tub in it, and you know, and they were all in the back, all the chicks, and yes,
I mean that was amazing. But aside from that, you just saw that whatever they gave us on that video. Rat did a video thing, and I think they had a couple things, but they didn't quite have the same. The members in Rat didn't quite have the same charisma or whatever. But what was good about that, like say with Warren, you know, he had this mystery. It's like, who is this wizard on the guitar? You know what I mean? And it was a more visual and ear thing. You didn't really know too much about him personally, but that was fine, you know?
Sure. Well, look at, I'll give you the example of who did it right and then did it wrong. Ozzy. Dude, when we were young, we were all petrified of Ozzy.
That's right.
I mean, we were literally like, I can remember going to see Ozzy at 85, I guess it would have been, whenever Master Puppets was, 85, 86, whatever, because it was Metallica and Ozzy. And I can remember trying not to tell my mom that I was going to see Ozzy, because Ozzy was the scary guy that, you know, bit animals and, you know, it was so demonic and got, you know, that might be more than my mom was going to let me deal with. And so I remember telling her, I'm just going to see Metallica. I was like, I'm going to see Metallica. And I would never mention Ozzy because there was that mystique about him. But then he became Osbourne's Ozzy, just a goofy clown.
Right.
You know, and honestly, I don't know about you, but I never looked at him the same after the Osbournes.
Yeah, I'm not going to go pay for a ticket for a guy who can't even, you know, who's stuttering and having difficulty talking. You know, I mean, why would you pay for that?
Falls in the pond when he's feeding the fish or whatever. That I like the guy that bit the head off of animals and might cause a riot and, you know, was singing about death and suicide and was scary.
The question is, did they know that's what it was going to be when they started it, or did they think his numbers were dropping? This was a chance to maybe keep him relevant doing the Osbourne show, and then it really took off because people were just so intrigued by how this guy lives.
I honestly think that it was. I honestly think that they didn't know what they were getting. And Oz, and you know, because you got to remember too, that was really before reality TV. The only thing that was out there reality TV wise was like The Real World,
right?
which was sort of real. At least the first season or two was sort of real before they started writing it up. And I honestly think that they thought Ozzy's life was so radical that they put it on, and it was different. I mean, he definitely lived a different life, but once you realize that it wasn't horror all the time, like, no. I don't know what you thought. I always thought Ozzy lived in a fucking scary unlit castle because that just is what you thought Ozzy would live in. You didn't think Ozzy would live in a mansion in Beverly Hills.
Kind of like what they showed Gene Simmons in the Kiss one.
Yeah, they exactly.
Did that. What was that called? The Kiss one? I forgot.
Uncensored.
Uncensored, yeah, which was funny. That was one of my favorite ones I had on tape back when you go into Gene Simmons' place and he's got women's heads on the walls, and it looks like a dragon's lair in there.
Dude, I mean, all of that stuff at the time, all of those types of bands, like all we thought with Kiss or Motley Crue or whatever was, especially Motley, we thought all those guys do is take drugs and fuck women. That's what we thought. We didn't have any idea about anything else about them, that they were regular people and that they could have regular
lives.
Life.
They had wives. And kids.
What is that?
Well, yeah, like they were raising kids, because you realize now, they have these kids that are 27, 30 years old. They were raising babies then. They just put that perception out there that they lived these lifestyles. It was made up.
Right. It was all made up. But we didn't know. And the only stuff they ever, think about Kiss especially.
Right.
And we'll go with Uncensored. Remember Paul laying in the bed with like 30 women in the bed? Exactly. And he's just, and he's just like, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing here? And he's just playing the role. And meanwhile, that's just not who the guy was at all. But
no,
Kiss did it as a career. Every time it waned with Kiss, there was always the, let's put the X in sex, and let's, you make me rock hard. And, they would write a song to keep the mystery going, the myth of Kiss going. And they did that even in the early days. When they were Makeup Kiss, they became Kiss in the Phantom of the Park. Like, oh, here's these monsters running around the park. Those guys were the masters of it. I think the real Ozzy showed itself and just was a totally different thing, and it didn't match. Which is what I think part of the appeal was that it didn't match. Because really, if you think about it, he never sold well after the Osbournes. He never had a good album after the Osbournes. But he's arguably 10 times the celebrity he was before the Osbournes.
Seemingly every rock guy that I'm aware of that's been on a television show, their pay and fame has skyrocketed.
Oh yeah,
from it, where half the time they get recognized is from the TV show, not so much the music they did. Even Janie Lane, I remember when he was alive, people would recognize him. You're on The Biggest Loser. You're the Biggest Loser. We'd be walking down the street and people would come up, some big black lady. I know, I saw you. You're the Biggest Loser.
He's like, gee, thanks.
Yeah, he was on this show where they had to lose weight because he had gotten like overweight, and so I don't know how much weight he lost on the show.
Yeah, Janie's a tough one, man. I mean, I knew Janie a little bit because he obviously, one of his best friends is one of my best friends, Billy Morris, and so I got to know Janie over the years. I sat in the studio a couple of times when they were recording some Warrant stuff, some of the stuff like that song Face that was on Latest and Greatest. I remember watching Janie record it, and I was in there for some of the Jabberwocky stuff that he recorded, so I got to know, I certainly am not trying to perpetrate myself here. I'm not trying to say, well, look at me, I knew this guy back when, no. I wasn't that kind of friend, but I got to know him a little bit peripherally from my friend Billy. And Janie was a really nice dude. And the unfortunate thing about Janie Lane, he was one guy of very big fame that was not built for it.
Right.
He was never, he always would pay attention to every word that was ever spoken about him. He would fight anybody that said anything about him. Somebody would say, you guys played a shit show. No, we didn't. No way. You must have been high. He was always that guy.
He didn't make it past that tough 90s to late 90s, early 2000s time If he had just hung in there like another couple years, he would have been celebrated.
I agree.
More. Those were just dark times for everybody. All of us were playing crappy club shows then.
The thing that separated the ones that survived from the ones that didn't, though, were the ones that survived. Steven. How many bad reviews has Steven had? He's had a bunch.
One.
Had one from us. He had one from me and Neely, which that was your introduction to
our
me.
whole friendship, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but Steven, I guarantee you, while you might have been mad, Steven probably was just like, gives a shit what those dummies say. You know, right. I know, because he was hardened. He was there was a toughness that you had to have to make it out of the 80s.
Right.
And Steven had it, and Bret Michaels has it, and the Motley guys have it, and Janie never did. Janie,
skin, yeah.
He really would take. He was a heart on his sleeve guy, and he wrote from the heart. But the reason he was able to do that was because he let everything in. And while it was great for his creativity, it obviously ended his life early because he couldn't live with it. You know, and that's sad, and it sucks. I can't tell you. Dude, there's 2 different interviews. They're on YouTube or Rumble or somewhere, if anybody wants to look them up, of me and Neely with Janie. 2 different years. And both times we asked Janie the same question. Why don't you just come off the road and write songs? You'd be great at it. He would probably have become one of those songwriter Hall of Fame guys that would have written 50
like the autograph
songs
singer, the autograph singer that did I forgot the television show he ended up doing.
Well, dude, like any of them, like John Bush. John Bush made all his money fucking doing commercials for Burger King. You know, I mean, as great as John Bush is as the Armored Saint guy and the Anthrax guy, John Bush made his money singing jingles for Burger King. You know, I mean, Janie, I could see Janie of writing 20 #1 hits for Taylor Swift or Adele or Jason Aldean or whatever, because his music. You could take I Saw Red. I'm just throwing a song. Yeah. You could make that a country song. You could make that a pop song. You could make that a Carrie Underwood song. You could make that a John Montgomery song.
Yeah.
The guy had a universal talent, but he couldn't find it in himself to pull himself out of what he knew, which was Warrant and being on the road and being in that mess of, hey, bro, I know you're trying to get clean, but just a little bump. You want just a little bump? And he would jump for it, or he would jump for the booze.
Right.
It killed him.
Another guy that was his own worst enemy passed on this week, Jack Russell.
Jack Russell, yeah.
That was, I guess, not a surprise. I mean, we had heard when that last show that he did where he couldn't perform, and they had somebody else come up there, and he was in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And they that he was going to be, when he announced he was coming off the road. I was hearing things at that point that he was only going to be around another week or 2 or something. And then sure enough, that was the case. But you're still kind of surprised when you see it. You expect these guys to go into some kind of, okay, they're done with music, so now they're going to go into an old age home for a while or something
or just disappear for a while and then come back.
Maybe.
You know, you expect them to disappear for 3 or 4 years, get healthy again. All of a sudden, here they are back again. But
like Lou Gramm, who's we'll be playing with this weekend. I heard he's actually doing better shows now after all his health issues. So it was sad. Met with mixed reactions, across the board from everybody. But
the reactions were, I'm gonna be honest, man. There were things that were bad about it,
Right.
Eddie Trunk using it to as a tease was ugly, and I don't care.
I didn't hear that. What happened with that?
He put a tweet out, and he says, "Can't say who it is, but you'll be hearing soon enough that a major star from the '80s has passed away." Like he used it as a tease,
right?
And that's just shitty. Just keep your fucking mouth shut until it's announced. Let the family announce it and then announce it. You don't have to be first at everything, and that's kind of lame. But and honestly, I saw the Mark Kendall tribute from the stage, and I was like, dude, come on.
So you watched that was at the Arcada where I just played, is where they had that, right?
No, that's this weekend. He just. the day that he died, or the day after he died,
okay,
they played a show, and he jumped to the mic and
gave a heartfelt speech.
That was kind of hollow, and again, it's a day later, maybe.
Yeah,
there's a whole nother. There's conspiracy about this that we got into on the CMS, which I got killed for, and then it turned out I was right. But whatever. But Mark should have probably made a thought out statement.
Okay.
Because on stage to bring up the fact that you guys had turmoil at the end, that felt awkward. And I know he was just talking from the heart. I know Mark a little bit. I'm sure you probably know Mark as well.
Yeah, I do.
He's a nice guy. He's not a guy that would say, "Ha ha, you're dead. Fuck you." He's not that guy. And it just came off a little odd, but yeah, no, the conspiracy piece of it was that Jack died on April the 7th, and it wasn't announced until the 15th.
Right.
And we talked about it on the show on Saturday, and we talked about what could possibly be the reasons. Was it a financial thing? Was it a this? Was it a that?
That's what I was hearing, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, and of course I get killed for that. I get the, look at you're talking about Eddie drunk, and you're just as bad. And I was like, I said I heard a rumor.
Yeah.
Turns out, if you go look at his fucking Wikipedia page right now, guess what day it says he died? The 7th. So I was right. So suck my dick, every one of you complainers on fucking YouTube.
Right. Now, the one today that hit home for me was Bob Seger. Did you hear this yet?
Did he die?
Yeah, you didn't know that? Bob Seger passed away, man. Super big bummer. I mean,
shit.
William Howe made a post, so I'm assuming he's legitimately knows that this is accurate, but he died at 79. Which surprised me because he just was on tour not too long ago, a couple of years back, right?
I saw it. I went to that tour.
Good thing you went, because I guess that was it. And he was still singing really good at that, right?
Dude, he was great. It was a great show.
You're not seeing it yet?
I don't see that he's dead, no.
Yeah, William Howell posted it, and I was trying to find something, and I was having trouble finding it as well. But I hope that dude's not wrong, but
I hope he is wrong.
Yeah, because you're like, no. You expect these people to like you not to see them for maybe ever again, but hear about they died, but that they got to live as an old person for till they were 90 or whatever.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen that way. Sometimes one day you're seeing them at a concert, and 2 years later they're passed on. It's
yeah, dude. If that's true, that is gonna fucking break my goddamn heart.
Yeah, I
love Bob Seger, man.
Me too. I was thinking about it, and I was like, wow, that music is a time capsule for my whole life.
Oh yeah.
Like from 5-6 years old, first probably hearing Night Moves or something.
Sure.
And then later Against the Wind and all those great albums. My parents loved that, and we had a tape that was Bob Seger on one side and AC/DC Back in Black on the other.
Okay.
And so whenever we would do road trips, it was like we'd listen to Bob Seger, and then it would switch over. We'd rock out to the AC/DC. So I had a cool upbringing with that kind of music, and those songs just take me back. They're so meaningful and soulful, and what an amazing singer and artist. A guy that managed to stay pretty much out of trouble. You don't hear too much bad stuff.
No, not really.
Bob Seger. I mean, he had disappeared for a while, and then all of a sudden he was doing a farewell tour, and it was good to see him. You went and checked it out?
I went. It was a great show. It was like over 2 hours. He played everything you would want to hear. He rocked, but at the same time, he played all the mellow stuff too. Dude, if that's true, that is... it's going to crush me, because Bob Seger, one of my all-time favorites, and fucking if Turn the Page isn't one of my top 3 songs of all time.
Right.
I love Turn the Page and all the songs. And I've got, dude, like you, time capsule. The second time I ever got laid was so stupid.
Right.
Was playing We've Got Tonight on a
We've Got
boombox.
Tonight. Who needs tomorrow?
I can remember singing that to my girlfriend Melanie as I was trying to fucking undo her bra and shit.
Your pants are too tight. I can't get the zipper down. That's funny. Yeah, well, maybe there's a chance it's not true, but I would think that, DJ Will isn't going to post something that's not true.
Probably it may just not be out there yet, or the family hasn't put out an official statement.
I thought he had I'm gonna look on his page.
I'm looking up Bob Seger dead, and unfortunately I'm seeing 400 rumors from like 3 years ago and 9 months ago and everything else.
Did he take this down?
Maybe. I hope it's wrong.
Yeah, I hope it's wrong too, man. Oh well, I'm not seeing it on his page now. Maybe he went, oops, and now he's making me look dumb. Thanks, DJ Will.
Whatever. Gave us a chance to talk about Bob Seger, which is fine.
That's right. But yeah, crazy stuff. I don't know how we got on to the because we were talking about Jack Russell and so forth. But it's sad, and Great White is another band that the guy's definitely a classic. I would say
sure
some of those Great White songs. Now the guy who came out not saying good things was the Alan Niven producer that had written a lot of the songs, and what I read there, I was just like, wow, I didn't even know some of this stuff, kind of.
Yeah, and that's fine that he said. I saw that too, and it's like, okay, it's fine that you have those opinions, and next week or whatever, it's fine that you air those opinions.
Same day, put that up.
Yeah, how about you let the body get cold before you start hammering the guy? I mean, come on, dude. You had all the chance in the world when he was alive to say it and argue it with him, and you didn't. But now that he's dead, now that he can't fight back, is like, oh, what a piece of shit. He stole my songs. It's like, stop it.
It's I think, physically, he's paid his dues. Jack Russell paid his dues with everything when you just watch the decline that he had to go through, and you could tell that basically it ate him up. How could it not? How could it not eat you up? And you kind of watched it eat him up over the years.
Sure,
having to live through that horrible tragedy.
Well, he wore it as his.
Yeah,
fair or unfair, he personally. He's another one that might have been, the same as we were talking about with Janie. Didn't have the thick enough skin to, and admittedly, we're talking about a bad review versus 100 people being burned to death. Yeah. There's a huge difference. But he wore that. He wore every family member that was like, you should be getting the death penalty, and you should be burned, and you should die. And he wore that every day of the rest of his life from the time of the fire. And it's unfortunate. I would never argue with somebody that was there or had a family member there. And I knew Ty Longley, so I certainly had a friend that died there, and my point to this is that while I wouldn't argue with anybody over it, at the same time, I would never truly in my own heart believe that there was any malicious intent.
Oh, no, of course not.
Jack Russell's whole life was about getting out in front of people, making a couple of bucks, and giving people an hour or two of enjoyment.
This was, again, that time period that just, in my memory, sucked. It was kind of when I first started playing in Steven's band. It was that, 2001, 2003. Things were just going for everybody. Yeah. That fire really put a damper on things because it made all those small club shows seem unsafe to be at.
Well, and not only that, and then 6-8 months later, you had Dimebag.
Right, and who I had got to meet and stuff, and so that was a bummer. The other thing not related to music was the DC Sniper.
Oh, yeah. I've watched.
It took a long time to get this guy. So for months he was going across state lines with the kid, and they were committing murders.
William Malvo.
They were going after not one type of person. They were there was no pattern. So everybody
purposely random. Yeah.
So random that no one's safe. They're getting kids, women, old people, young people. There's nobody you could say.
Grocery store, gas station, school.
Because remember the killers, was it the Zodiac or something, was just looking for young girls that were with brunettes or something. You know, it was like some specific
all those guys,
thing
Ted
that you could
Bundy. Ted Bundy. The Ted Bundy. I guess I shouldn't say this way, but I'm gonna say it this way. I'm a big serial killer fan. Like I follow serial killers a lot, and almost all of them have a pattern. You know, Ted Bundy had a pattern of these types of girls with their hair parted in the middle and long hair and straight hair, and Gacy always took, you know, young gay men, and so
that was just one group of society that had to be cautious. Everybody else didn't worry about being a Wayne Gacy victim.
Well, and you know, all the famous ones had a pattern. Dahmer, you know, was grabbing young gay dudes in
black, Asian, and Hispanic, not so much white, right?
Not white dudes, because people would look for the white dudes where it was the police. I mean, it's a famous story about Dahmer, is that he literally was drilling a hole in one guy's head. The guy somehow escaped.
I remember.
Got out to the street. Some woman called the police. Police came, saw him. He came out and said, "Oh, we're just having a lover's quarrel," and they gave him back to him.
The kid didn't speak English either, I don't think.
Yeah.
That was part of the problem.
Plus he had a hole drilled in his head.
Yeah.
From a drill.
Wow. That's in the movie. That's in the movie. They show that scene, and it's so crazy. It was like a nightmare that they would take him back there.
And the cops are just like, "Oh, well." The cops didn't want nothing to do with the whole gay thing. So the cops are like, bingo. "Oh, well,
I think
whatever.
I see your butt's bleeding there. We're just going to drop you off."
Yeah, just go back with him. He'll take care of you tonight. Go ahead. Beat it,
I think it was an adult, too. It wasn't a kid. It was like, you know,
somebody like 19 or something.
It was very young, but not a minor.
Not a minor.
A crime was necessarily committed.
But, well, there's a crime in the murder and drilling a hole in someone's head. But the worst part about that is, if I'm not mistaken, it's one way or the other on this. He either killed that one and then killed his brother later.
Oh, great.
Like a year or two later, or killed his brother first and then killed that one a year or two later. But somehow he killed two people in the same family, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Dahmer was a mess.
He ended up getting murdered in prison.
Yeah, he ended up getting taken.
Because that's the one thing. Yeah, you killed all black people, but they obviously know somebody that's in prison themselves. You know.
Well, and just, dude, there's the famous aspect of that as well. Would you want to be somebody famous going to prison? Not me.
They've changed things since then. It seems like those kind of people are separated.
Protective custody or something.
Yeah, they're almost in solitary most of the time.
Sure.
For their own protection.
No, they definitely need to be. But
yeah.
I don't know how we went from guys snoring on your shoulder to Jeffrey Dahmer.
I mentioned the DC Sniper. I remember just that time period was not good, even though it was new for me and I was enjoying going on the road. The shows were not glamorous. I mean, if you watch the Rat Behind the Music, they kind of show Piercy's band, and we're playing like somewhere and there's nobody there, and it makes it look like we're very unsuccessful and the band's terrible or something, which I remember hurt my feelings, you know, at the time, because you're like, finally get on a MTV Behind the Music, and then it's like some shitty, you know, perception of your band. But that's kind of how it was for the 80s bands until about 2005 or 6. It started to go back, because again, people started missing that authentic rock from the 80s that just wasn't there. It wasn't like, where is it? These newer, because new metal came up, and if you were young enough, you could like it, but the older ears weren't really that into a lot of these bands.
The biggest, like, I'll disagree with that, but I'm, you know, I don't think new metal was the problem. I think new metal was the new 80s metal because it was showy. You know, I can remember seeing Korn and them having like little trampolines on stage and doing backflips and shit while they were playing. And it was cool. I think the era right before that is what hurt the most. When you went from entertainers in the 80s, a Rat show, I've talked many times about the stage with the mirrors and the lights and the, you know, explosions and fireworks and all kinds of shit. And it was an entertaining show. Ted Nugent shooting the flaming arrows across the stage and shooting, you know,
or the legit talent, where You know, because to play the solos and stuff of the 80s, you had to really be great on guitar to sing those songs, those anthemic songs or whatever was going on. These were real singers. But in the new metal thing, it was aggressive. And yeah, I liked Korn and those bands too. I was young enough to enjoy it, but they weren't playing guitar solos. A lot of the stuff anybody could probably play on guitar. The drums and stuff started getting a little more complex maybe, but it's just not the same. And when you even now, like I don't really go and listen to Korn. I'm more apt to probably listen to some 70s or 80s stuff before I would go listening to that early 2000s metal stuff.
See, to me, the problem where it got lost though was the era right before it, the shoegazer stuff, because you went from entertainers to boring as shit. And I'm talking about Candlebox, and I'm talking about Sponge, and I'm talking about, I don't know, what was the Last Resort band? This is my last resort. Papa Roach, and Seven Mary 3, and Third Eye Blind. All these bands that came out after the 80s bands were boring. Even Deftones. I know a lot of people like the Deftones. I personally don't.
The presidents of the United States.
Lump. She's in my head. Ugh.
God, it was bad. The 90s were awful.
Bad, boring. Dude,
if you want to call me baby, just go ahead now.
Let's not pick on the Spin Doctors now.
Oh.
I'm a Two Princes fan now. I like that song. But
that is a good song.
But they were boring as well. I mean, I went to see them once and they sucked. They were so dull.
Mr. Jones and me. Like all those bands, I was just like, I don't want to be
Counting Crows.
I don't want to be in a band like this. Like
live.
When I turned 18 was 1990. So it's just like, oh, welcome to adulthood. Now everything sucks. And all those guitar solos you aspired to play, they're illegal. And we don't play that kind of music. It has to be really simple and stupid. And anybody could play it on guitar. And that's what we were subjected to for 10 years. Then there was a revolt of that white bread stuff. And they had the Korn and some of these heavier bands, Sepultura stuff, Pantera. But
a lot of that stuff, Fear Factory, Machine Head.
Right. So there was that, but then people were going, well, all these guys are yelling and everything's tuned down all low and everything. And they were starting to miss that rock thing again. And that's where things started to get good. It was like the mid 2000s, around the time I remember playing the Wasp tour and stuff like that. And the shows started kind of getting bigger again, and miraculously so. And here we are, all these years later, still doing it. I'm in my 24th year of the band, and we're playing our biggest events we've ever done. Which is I'm so happy for, grateful for. But is there a scientific reason for this? I don't know, other than nobody, as Chris said, is replacing it.
No, there's no replacements. I'm going to address this real quick. Deftones and System of a Down played 50,000 people. I don't deny that. I don't deny that the Deftones are talented. I don't deny that System of a Down is talented. I do deny that either are good because I hate them both. You know?
I think they both have good singers. Personally, they're both capable of like at least singing. Like they're not just screamers. You know what I mean?
But System of a Down, I just can't handle. I can't. It's like shut up.
I did like that. I remember I did buy that album. Like if a band came out in the 2000s, like Sugar Smack says it like that. He's like, you're gonna get smacked with the sugar. Oh shit! I forgot where I was going with that.
About something about the 2000. If you bought a CD in the 2000s.
Yeah. I bought. So if there was a band that was kind of doing something completely different or like kind of changing the game a little bit, I remember buying the Tool record, one of the Anima or something. I thought that was a different kind of sound that I kind of wanted my ears to hear. And then the System of a Down was kind of like that. It seemed like the next wave of hard music. So I did kind of not study it, but purchase it, listen to it. It was different. It was just, that's all I could say. It was unique. There was a uniqueness to it. I haven't seen too much of that since then, where I'm like, I gotta buy this. This is a whole game changer here. I gotta go buy this record and let my ears get acclimated to it so I can produce music like
I think the last one was probably Tool.
Right.
Maybe On some level, maybe the only band that's like that right now that is kind of changing the landscape a little bit is Gojira.
Okay, yeah. They were at the Olympics. They played, right? And that was pretty dope.
That was pretty good. But their sound is different. Right. Like if you listen to their whole albums, they really have a unique sound that is theirs. And they are very talented.
That's hard to do.
It is. It very much is. And Tool, dude, I'm with you with Tool. I love Tool. But they were a shoegazer band too. They are boring as fuck live. I mean, I've seen them a bunch of times. And look, I don't like to ever talk bad about Tool because Maynard referenced me in his book, which is still one of the thrills of my entire life. He actually credited my review of the Enema record that you mentioned. Mm-hmm. He credited me in his book for a review that I wrote for Scene magazine. Nice. There's literally just one little thing that says, and as written by Scene writer CHRIS Akin, Tool is a thinking man's band or something. I don't remember what the quote was.
Thinking man's band.
But it was something that I wrote about them like that, and I didn't even know about it until the book had been out like a year because I didn't read it. And my friend Matt just sent me a screenshot, and he was like, "Dude, did you know you were in Maynard's book?" And I was like, "Maynard who?"
How many Maynards do you know, though?
I was like, well, I don't know any. That's the point. I don't know Maynard personally at all. And I looked and he sent me the screenshot, and I was like, that's the coolest shit ever. That I got nicked for a book.
That's great, man.
But I loved Tool's music. I still love Tool's music.
Right.
But on stage, boring as shit.
Sound fantastic, but yeah, I've seen Tool live a couple times, and it's like, wow, the guitarist does not move. He's just staring at his thing. Boring. He does not move at all. The bass player kind of is like, at least like kind of going like this a little, but that's not my school. Like I grew up watching AC/DC and Van Halen and these bands. Like I want to see these guys sweating. I want to see, and I try to be that. I try to bring that myself as much as I can without looking too outrageous. I don't want to, be the center of attention or something, but I'm up there moving because that's how I grew up.
Dude, those kind of bands, they can have their life, and if they're exceptional musicians, they can make it like a Tool. Another band like that is a 70s band, 70s, 80s band, but I think that they're musically talented, but again, boring as all hell. Rush.
Yeah.
Rush, great band. Certainly wrote some great songs, but seeing them live, dude, I walked out on them twice. I watched Mr. Big blow them off the stage. Mr. Big, not a great band. Not a great band, but I watched them a couple of times, and then Rush would come out and play, and it's just, dude is singing about fucking trees or whatever, and they're just all standing still, and I'm just like, no, I'm out of here. I can catch the strip club and catch me an hour and a half of strippers or something. Be way more entertaining than this.
Wowzers. So yeah, a lot of death in the news, but unfortunate this happens. That's why it's important to, I guess, go check out these bands while you can. Out. The 80s bands are coming to an end, folks. So these next like 2 years are probably the last chance you're going to get to see if there's somebody you haven't seen or somebody you love seeing. You got to come out and celebrate it one last time.
I agree. Why don't we do this, dude? We're going to take a quick break. We're going to sell some picks.
Yeah.
Then we are going to come back, and since we're talking about death, I'm going to stay with the death theme, but only in a positive way, if there's a way to have a positive death theme, with something that was so exciting to me that I almost called you at 5 minutes till showtime to say I'm too busy to do the show.
Oh.
That's how happy I am about this death. So,
okay.
But it's not what you think. It's not what you're thinking. I'm not going to celebrate somebody dying. I will tell you that. You'll see in a minute. But hang tight. We will be right back. It is Chris Akin Presents.
It's the limited edition 6-pick set from Erik Ferrantino's. Get your autograph set today at ericpicks.cmspn.com. $25 includes first class shipping.
Brace yourself for the wildest ride of your life. It's the craziest book Chris Akin has ever written, and other things I should not say. Get ready for over 500 pages of pure, unfiltered debauchery. From his military years, Chris Akin spills the shocking stories of sex, partying, violence, and the stuff that's so wild it's probably illegal. You've heard the tales on the Classic Metal Show, but never like this. Don't wait. Get your copy now at chrisakin.net before the censors try to shut it down.
And we are back right here on Chris Akin Presents. It is Chris and Eric. And Eric, you know as well as I do, I am an absolute addict when it comes to TV.
Right.
Love my TV. I will do anything to keep my TV. For years and years and years and years, my all-time favorite show from TV history was not available on any of the streaming platforms. Even in the bootleg area, it wasn't. I couldn't even find it in the black market. I couldn't find it to purchase. Nowhere to purchase to stream. I could have bought the sets, but it would cost me like $200, which I wasn't going to do, as much as I love this show.
All right.
But I am happy to announce, for all of my friends that are Peacock subscribers, the all-time best cop show in the history of the world is now available on Peacock. Homicide, Life on the Street.
Ooh.
The Shield is available on Hulu, by the way.
Okay. That's another good one. Not as good as
my
Homicide?
number two. That is my number two, is The Shield. Homicide is the best show ever.
Okay.
It was on NBC when it first ran. It features Yaphet Kotto from Alien. Remember the black guy in Alien that was like the head of the ship?
He was the coolest guy, yeah.
And it features there's a bunch of guys that are featured in it. Richard Belzer he went on to be on Law and Order SVU as Munch. Andre Braugher from, I guess people these days would know him from Brooklyn 99. Mm-hmm. He was a star on this one. Daniel Baldwin was on this show. Bunch of big name people were all on this show. And this show got like zero traction for about 2 years. Like it was canceled and brought back and canceled and brought back. But then it caught fire. But for the last 20 whatever years, it has not been available anywhere. All the time that we've had streaming, it's never been on streaming. And it drove me nuts because it had 7 seasons, has 120 episodes or whatever it is.
It's on Peacock now, you're saying?
It's on Peacock now. Just launched yesterday. Now, I got to tell you this story because you're going to laugh. I told you right before we started that right before I came on, I was on a conference call.
Yes.
Well, at the end of the conference call, my friend Corey that I do the CMS TV with, and he and I are kind of the masterminds of all the digital stuff in the CMS network. Mm-hmm. Right at the end, he goes, "Dude, one quick thing I got to tell you. Homicide is now on Peacock." And I was like, "What?" And it didn't click. And he was like, "Yeah, man, they just launched it yesterday. Peacock launched Homicide, Life on the Street." And I immediately was like, I got to call Eric and say that we're not doing a show tonight. I said that on the phone call.
Oh.
Because I am going to stay up all night tonight. I'm going to tell you now. I don't have any. I have the Seth show tomorrow at 4:00. I think I can go from now until 6:00 tomorrow night. Awake.
Well, I'm gonna tell Susan we got to check out an episode of this tonight.
Dude, this show rules. It is so grit. It's the first. Here's why I liked it. Like you've seen The Shield?
Yeah, I love The Shield.
It's like The Shield in that it's gritty like that. It's real raw. It's not, if you think back to cop shows up until this was out in the mid 80s or probably mid to late 80s, I guess. But if you think back to what we had at that time, everything was kind of LA Law-ish. You know what I mean? There weren't gritty shows.
This was boring drama.
Yeah, and with the happy ending, and usually it's about the two detectives that were dating each other, and it was more about the dating than the crime. And Homicide was about the crime. It's literally the precursor kind of to Law and Order, what Law and Order became. But it's just real raw. These detectives, they tell the stories about how these guys don't like each other and don't get along, you know, but yet they got to work together to solve these murders. The murders are gruesome. And this was on network TV. This wasn't on like Showtime or HBO or whatever. It was really raw. And I loved it when it came out. I watched every week. I would watch this damn show. And it's driven me nuts since streaming for the last 12 years that I couldn't watch it. I actually have, you're going to laugh because this is so stupid. I had somebody uploaded them to YouTube. And I bootleg downloaded them all just so I would have and I didn't have all of them. I had like 80 episodes. So I have like gaps in the stories and everything, but I didn't care because I just wanted to watch it. I am so excited that this show is finally on streaming. And I don't know the backstory to it. I know why it wasn't on streaming. This was one of those shows, and you probably remember this. How old were you in the 80s, like in your teens?
Well, I was born in 72, so 82 I was 10.
Yeah,
I turned 18 in 90.
So you were probably 14, 15, 16 when this show was out. You probably weren't watching TV at the time.
Right.
You know, you were out running around with your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
When this show came on, the reason it hasn't been available on streaming, and I have not watched not one episode on Peacock yet, so I don't know what they did, but it's been a licensing issue because this was one of the first shows that wasn't using the gay canned music that they always put together for these kind of shows. They were using like whatever was popular at the time. So you might get a Motley Crue song in this, or a Candlebox song in this, or you know, whatever fits the scene that was also on the radio.
Right.
So it's got good soundtrack, and they may have edited it all out, and that's why it's on now. I don't know.
That's probably what they did. I was just thinking they have the capability to
is.
maybe do that.
Which is why it would have taken so long to get this damn show on the air. But, dude, for me as a TV guy, this is the holy grail. Okay. I'm going to tell you now, there's 7 seasons of this thing. I'm going to watch all 7 seasons 20 times before they take it off. I will watch it over and over again for months because it is my all-time favorite show. Okay. So I am extremely happy that that Homicide: Life on the Street.
Well, we need to change it up over here because this is like Seinfeld house, where she's comforted by she watches murder porn too. She likes she'll watch the Forensic Files, which I'm down with for a while, and those types of shows. But then she likes to clean her brain with some Seinfeld.
I do the same thing. Me and Susan are the same.
Yeah.
I do the same. Because if I don't, then I start dreaming about serial killing or being killed. And I do that, dude.
Like, it sounds kind of fun. No.
Well, dude, it's weird, but when I get into me and my daughter call it murder porn, and we're both addicted to murder porn. And I'm so bad that I watch like the Chris Watts guy. You know of Chris Watts, right? The guy that killed his wife and his kids and stuffed the kids in the oil tanks.
Right.
I'm obsessed with this fucking guy. I quite honestly, I don't think that there is anything on YouTube about Chris Watts that I have not watched. That's every podcaster, every guy that has a thought, every video. I watched the whole 6 hours.
What's his deal? What's Chris Watts' deal?
The real or what he's saying?
Well, he killed his. Is that it? He killed his family, and that's it.
He killed his. He's one of those familicide guys.
Familicide. And I've never heard that before.
Well, what he did. Here's what he did. He was a kind of a fat dude.
Okay.
And he was married to this chick that was she was a social media person. She worked for one of these like Amway type companies or Quick Star or one of those type of companies. But she was on Facebook all the fucking time.
All right.
And was using her real life or her pretend real life on Facebook to sell these products. Okay. She was one of those.
Right.
And this guy Watts, they had 2 kids. They lived in Colorado, or they moved to Colorado so he could work on this oil thing. He was making pretty good money. She was making pretty good money, but they were way over their head. Like they're making $150,000 a year or something and living in an $800,000 house. Oh. Like they just got way over their head.
Interesting.
Well, in the middle of all this Watts dude, he had 2 kids, 2 babies, like 3 and 1 or something of that age. But this Watts dude got obsessed with exercise, and he got himself really ripped up. He went from like 230 to like 160, and he's totally ripped and, got himself ripped. Well, you know what happens when the guy gets totally ripped and he's dealing with a wife that's overbearing. Like he was like the mild-mannered one.
Right.
And she was the alpha.
Okay.
So he found himself a chick at work and started banging this chick at work. He knocks up the wife. The wife starts getting fat. She's a pushy bitch anyway. The girlfriend, hot as hot can be. I mean, she's really hot, this Nicole Kessinger. She's pretty hot. Big fucking tits. Beautiful girl. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's real hot. And he starts hooking up with this chick. And the thought is that he couldn't deal with his life. He wanted a change.
Right.
But he wasn't alpha enough to say, I'm leaving, I want a divorce, whatever.
Right.
And there is some thought that maybe the Kessinger girl may have convinced him to kill his family.
Oh.
And she came home from a business trip one night, came home, and he whacked her. And he whacked the kids. Jeez. Threw them in the back of his pickup truck, drove them out to an oil well, buried the wife, stuffed the kids in oil tanks. Like those big oil tanks.
Oh wow! So he didn't have they were young though. These kids were young or something.
3 and 1.
Oh my God!
And somehow he was able to stuff a 3-year-old through a hole that was only 8 inches across. What? So he probably stuffed her in and stomped on her head to push her through.
Oh wow, that's great.
I mean, these are his kids. These are
treating them like Play-Doh.
Yeah, it was his thing. I think why I'm so addicted to this guy, to watching about this guy, is because, one, there's so much video of him. There's so much video of him talking both before it and after it. Like there's the cops even were so fascinated with this dude that a year after he was convicted, the cops that investigated him went to the prison and talked to him for 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Just to get the real story, because they couldn't even wrap their heads around it. It's crazy. And he seems like, when you hear him talk, he seems like a guy that we all would hang out with. He just seems like a regular dude, except for that time when he killed his wife and stuffed his kids in oil tanks.
I mean, he was still... I don't understand who could be capable of such a thing.
It's crazy, man.
But you do see it often where somebody wants to leave with the other new person and doesn't maybe want to deal with the divorce.
Yeah.
The story happens quite often.
Yeah, the story fits, but it's like, dude, if you're not familiar with him, I know Susan is.
Right.
I don't even have to guess. I know your girl is, because this is probably the most famous murder guy of the last 5 years. It's recent. He killed He killed the wife and kids in 2018, so it's fairly recent. But there's tons of documentary. Dude,
did he marry the hot girl?
No, he went to jail.
So he didn't get that far. Like he committed the murder, and they found
he committed the murders, and he committed the murders, and then he was doing press, like. You know how they always
missing
do
family? Oh, my family. Where are they? Help
me
find them. I started to GoFundMe.
He was doing that, and he was so full of shit that it raised all the red flags immediately. Like he's like laughing and stuff. He's like,
I know, it's just so crazy.
I can't believe they're not here. I don't know where they are. You know, he's like laughing and goofing around.
That's a nervous thing too. Some
Yeah.
people, when they're nervous, they just start laughing. And it's really, you want to kill them when they do that. But
and then he takes a polygraph. Why he agreed to take the polygraph, I don't know. The only question he gets right on the whole fucking polygraph is his name. He failed it. They said it was like a failure is like say a -3. I don't know the exact numbers. But if failing is a -3 score, his score was like -70. Like he missed everything. He just, and then he brings in his dad into the interrogation room, lies to his dad, says that the wife choked out the kids first, and then he killed her because she killed the kids.
I was mad at her for doing.
Yeah. Then he finally tells another story. Then he settles in his court instead of going through trial. He just automatically says, I plead guilty. And one of the big things that's out there all over the internet is the reason he did that was to wall it off to protect the girlfriend.
Okay.
That maybe he did that so that they would stop investigating the girlfriend because there's already now a convicted person for this crime.
Right.
And he knew he was going no matter what, so he just fucking walled it off.
Would you say he was intelligent guy or non-intelligent? Yes. Okay.
I wouldn't say he's a computer programmer intelligent guy.
Yeah.
But I would say he's not a dummy either. He's definitely, I mean, he was working it seemed to me like he was working a higher end job with these oil rigs. You know, it didn't seem to me like he was the guy digging the holes for the oil rigs. Right. It seemed like he was a guy that was working some kind of measurements to, you know, I don't know, to process the oil or something.
He was a skilled laborer.
Yeah, he was a skilled guy for an oil company. I mean, again, dude, there's documentaries on Netflix on this guy and Tubi and Plex and YouTube. There's no less than 200 documentaries on this guy. 200.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the story, but I feel like I've heard the name before.
Let me see. I'll just pull up Tubi's real quick and see if you recognize the guy's face. Tubi.tv. Because you probably will. I'm assuming you will recognize his face when you see him. See here, Chris Watts. Because this was it was definitely a big story. Present, share screen. Right. No. Oh, it won't let me blow up the picture. Fuck. Let's see if I can find a picture of him here.
He looks like one of those guys that. Let's see.
This guy.
Okay.
I know you can't really see him real well there, but it's fascinating to watch. To me, it's fascinating. But
so he strangled his kids and his wife, or like how did he kill them?
Well, he strangled the wife. And dude, the story is bizarre. Like the wife comes home from a business trip, they bang, and then he gets on top of her after banging her and chokes her out.
Maybe that he was going to use that as a defense, like it was in case he got caught. Like, oh, it was just an accident. We were actually making love, and this happened.
Maybe, but then he goes in the. I think
that's exactly why okay, never mind. I'm not even going to go there.
I'm gonna assume he just snapped, but then it's a little vague on what happened exactly with the kids. But they say that he took the kids with him alive to the oil tanks.
Jeez.
And then he took the one kid up on top of one of the tanks and stuffed her in a, like he smothered her.
That part I don't even want to
blanket,
hear. That's just that.
And then stuffed her in the oil tank. And then the other kid, well, wait a minute. This is how fucked up this story is.
Okay.
Then the other kid asked him if he was going to do the same thing to her.
Oh.
The 3-year-old. I mean, it's fucked up. I mean, the whole premise of Chris Watts is bizarro world. It's a world that we cannot process in our heads.
Right. He's lacking something that we have that he didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
a soul.
A soul, a heart.
Yeah.
You know, that thing, whatever that is in your stomach that
like,
tells
how did
you.
he get that far? Like, how did the wife not get any red flags that he could even be capable of such?
Dude, no one did. That's the mystery to this is every single person in his life, mother, father, stepmother, stepfather, friends, everybody says he was a quiet, mild-mannered, never thought anything, didn't drink too much, didn't smoke pot, didn't party.
Played by the rules.
Just was a good family guy. There's 4,000 videos of him playing with his kids and feeding the kids and doing family shit and out at the amusement parks. And then he snuffed them out like no one's business.
His body got taken over by an Archon.
Well,
that
Archon might have been named Nicole because that's the big rumor. That's one of the rumors is maybe she did it, and he
took the blame because he was so.
And there is some proof to that of there is a ping from her phone near his house at the time of the murders.
Yeah. I'm surprised they let it go, even with the conviction with the high-profile case. I'm surprised they didn't go further with it. And
just because any judge, any attorney could get rid of it.
There's
already been somebody convicted.
Oh, well, I was going to say that maybe they didn't have the technology. I don't know when this occurred, but like now everything, they have your whole life and all your connections and every keystroke you ever made on your computer. They could find out. Back in the 80s or 90s, that wasn't a thing yet.
This is a prime example of that,
right?
Because they did go like on his computer and on her computer, and her computer. There were searches on like, I'm dating a married man. Will he leave his wife? And marriage stuff, and how popular is Amber Fry, the woman that sold out Scott Peterson, and like these are all searches that she did on her computer. Wow. And there's a lot of evidence that leads you to at least suspect she had something to do with it. It's a fascinating story. It's horrific. It's horrific on another level,
right?
But it is fascinating.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Children getting killed. It bums me out, but I don't mind when it's the adults. I'll watch those.
Oh, I don't either. Usually, it's what bothers me the most is that he's not going to be killed. He's just going to live out his days.
Yeah,
this is a guy that when he took his plea, they should have taken him out back and given him a $3 bullet to the skull.
Yeah.
Why keep this guy alive?
Right.
What purpose does that do for anybody? Makes his family feel better? Tough shit.
Well, there's profit in prisons too, in a sense,
Yeah, but
they get paid a certain amount to house them, and they'd spend less than that to house them, and they make a profit.
True.
There are some people that should be definitely taken off the earth for sure, but he'll never be out. He'll never get out. So
he's going to get killed in jail. There's again going to the YouTube. There are numerous videos of different people that did time with this guy in the last 5 years, and every one of them says that it's just waiting for the spotlight to fade. And as soon as he's protected right now because the spotlight's still on him and it would make the prison look bad. Yeah. But when the spotlight fades on Chris Watts, so too will his, same as Dahmer. Dahmer lasted 10 years or whatever, but that's because the spotlight stayed on Dahmer. And then as soon as Dahmer faded into the world of like Bundy and Gacy and Jack the Ripper and old, then he got killed. Same thing going to happen to Chris Watts.
So is that when the department's kind of behind letting it happen inside the prison, or because you would think as a prisoner you'd want to get the most fame and get him.
You would,
right
but
right?
You would think that, but right now where he's in the spotlight, where there's all these documentaries and everything about him, he's probably in protective custody.
Yeah. Oh, I see. It takes some time before they finally start. Oh, he's older now. Nobody cares. We'll let him just back into a regular room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, look at the heat that was it Rikers or whatever got for Jeffrey Epstein allegedly being killed there.
Yeah, allegedly, right?
Allegedly, but look at the heat that the place took.
Yeah,
took a lot of heat. You know, if they would have waited until 5 years from now, when it's Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, I remember that name. You know, then it wouldn't have been a big deal if somebody took him out. So, you know that. I mean, look, it's all it's all a game.
We'll check it out. I want to check out Homicide, Life on the Street. I want to check out. I want to say, what's his name? Chris Watts.
Chris Watts.
Okay, well, we'll have to watch.
Look him up on any platform. Look him up. I mean, this one is especially great. Of all of the documentaries, this is the best one. The one on Tubi. The one on Netflix is real good as well.
Tubi has some good documentaries. I started watching a few.
Tubi's the best, man.
Yeah.
Tubi is.
That's where I saw the OnlyFans ones. The OnlyFans ones I watched on there. So I'm down with that. And I do have to roll out to this thing, and I'm kind of getting ready for that tonight. So we should probably wrap it up.
That's good. Works for me because I need to. Go watch Homicide.
Yes. Speaking of scary things, besides other homicides, we got the Fright Bite, which there's going to be probably a homicide involved in that.
Oh, I'd imagine there'll be several.
So you'll see an announcement coming up if you're a subscriber, Caps Locals, and for our Chris Akin Presents fans, please come party with us there. It's a lot of fun. We read your jokes live as you joke them.
You have a week to sign up to one of the two platforms. Doesn't matter which.
You got 1 week. Do you hear that?
That's right. Get to it. But you should sign up because we will have a lot of fun. On next Tuesday, those of you that are signed up will be riding along with us. Those of you that are not, will go fuck yourselves next Tuesday. That's what I say. But where will you be starting tomorrow, sir?
Well, this 80s Music Fest in Branson, I did get finally something on that tonight, which I can tell you is the venue for it. It's the the Mansion Theater. Sorry, my eyes are going. It says that the venue is the Mansion Theater, and and this is going to be with Jesus Jones, Stephen Piercy, Lou Graham, and Night Ranger. Looks like kind of an early show for us. I'm kind of surprised at 6:15. We hit the stage on that, so pretty cool. And then I'll be home Friday and home for 2 weeks, and the next thing after that is the Rocktember Festival. That we'll be doing. So Rocktember in Hinckley, Minnesota. Then on the 14th we'll be playing with Queensryche, Slaughter, and Steven Adler in Amarillo, Texas.
Nice.
So
it's a good show.
It's a busy year, man. I'm just going, wow, I'm looking at these dates. I mean, we have probably another 25 gigs to do. So
that's great, considering you were a little worried there for a while.
I was a little worried, but I have to give Sullivan Big from Big Time Entertainment props for getting us a bunch of shows. We're working so hard, and as you see, it's a lot of travel and it's a lot of work, but I'm documenting all this craziness for you guys. So come check out my subscriber page, and you'll see my diaries that I do from my point of view.
Absolutely. And from what everybody is saying, I know Neely said it on Saturday on the CMS, said you guys are a fucking tight machine. You guys are well-oiled and kicking ass. So don't miss it when it comes to your town.
That's right. You won't be disappointed.
That's right. And as for me, y'all know where I'll be. Tomorrow with Seth. Don't know if we have a guest or not. We had fun with Ryan McCombs from Drowning Pool yesterday. That was pretty fun. Saturday, CMS, me and Neely. Monday, back with Seth. And then Tuesday, I will be scared with the Count. Count Cracula and I will be back doing Fright Bite. So
that's right.
Sign up. Be ready for that next Tuesday. And yeah, blah, blah, blah. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Okay.
So for Chris Akin Presents, I am Chris Akin.
And I'm Erik Ferentinos.
And we will see you later.
Erik with his mohawks fighting wild. Beach, West, living like a of bacon and cheese, now we sail